Well, Fox News is not the only company that's faced allegations of sexual harassment recently. Uber and Sterling Jewelers, which owns the Kay, Jared, and Zales chains, have faced accusations as well. Uber hired former Attorney General Eric Holder to investigate recent claims, and Sterling's parent company says the allegations against it are without merit. Alex Wagner takes a closer look at workplace culture's role in rooting out sexual harassment.
Fire Bill O'Reilly!
Intense public outcry over the latest sexual harassment allegations against Bill O'Reilly ultimately brought down one of the most powerful people in cable news.
Professor, do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing?
But the reaction 26 years ago was much different when Anita Hill accused Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas of harassment.
Of his own sexual prowess.
Last October, Hill told CBS News that the focus of the issue has to change.
Starting really, how are we going to measure punishment from the point of view of the person who's been harmed?
Companies are going to be held to account.
Fatima Goss-Graves, incoming president at the National Women's Law Center, says that may be happening.
So we're at really a tipping point of public attention, public awareness, and transparency on the issue of harassment.
According to a CBS News poll conducted last September, 78% of women and 71% of men believe sexual harassment exists in the workplace, but just 37% of victims report it to a supervisor.
Most women never report harassment at all because they fear retaliation, because they believe that they won't be believed, because they think they'll be discounted. And that has been true for a long time.
Fox News!
Graves says while the ouster of O'Reilly and former Fox chairman Roger Ailes could signal a sea change, other examples show there's more work to do.
I moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it.
Whoa.
I did try and her. She was married.
She says last fall's leaked Access Hollywood tape of then presidential candidate Donald Trump is one of them.
Unfortunately, the lesson that we learned after the election was that sometimes harassers are rewarded.
How many other companies are dealing with this problem?
Well, we know publicly that Uber is dealing with sexual harassment allegations, as is the parent company of Kay Jewelers and Jared Jewelers. That's just this year alone,
Wow.
Vlad.
So here's the question I think that's been most on my mind. What's the biggest challenge facing women who find themselves in a situation where they feel as if they're being sexually harassed? Not that they feel they are being sexually harassed. What can they do?
Well, I think it's twofold. One is just the bravery that's required to come forward in a moment like this. It's a tough thing to be harassed at work. It's disorienting. There are threats. There's the potential threat of retribution. There's real concern that this could harm your career, that you might ultimately have to leave. So that's hard. And then there's the question of how the company's actually going to deal with that. Again, there are codes of conduct here, and those are in place. But because so few companies are actually tested on this front, what do you actually do when you have a cultural problem here? It remains to be seen like what the future is for the women that do come forward in moments like this. So I think there are a lot of questions about how you deal with the individual victims of sexual harassment, and then what that means, what the implications are for broader company culture. And we're just dealing with both of those at the same time right now.
Unbelievable. So do you think the Fox case is going to force a lot of other companies to evaluate the way things operate in their own shops? I mean, you hear a lot of these women, for example, at Fox News, who say they called this hotline.
Yeah.
And having a hotline is one thing, but culture, it's not just having a physical line, right?
Yeah, I mean, so it's not just having a physical line, and so many of them don't actually pursue it. I mean, I think the bigger question is, how do you change the values in a company that allows something like this to happen? And people have applauded the decision by Fox to have Bill O'Reilly to dismiss him. But at the same time, they've said, look, there has been a culture that has abided by that behavior for 13 years. This is not the first time Bill O'Reilly has been accused of sexual harassment allegations. We need to look at the ecosystem that was around him. We need to look at other top executives who sanctioned this effectively. And so that's truly the question. It's usually not just one actor. It's a climate that allows this kind of behavior to happen in.
Important reporting. Alex Wagner, thank you.
Thanks, Vlad.